First of all, I'm going to start with a question. Have you ever had some desire or dream or a passion that somebody's told you is impossible? Raise your hand if you have. Now, keep your hand up if you've been told that that was impossible by a friend, a peer, a relative, or what we call a red lighter, somebody who tells you to stop. Pretty much all of us, yeah? So if I told you that I believe that everything is possible, that when you get a no, it doesn't mean no, it just means find another way, I hope that you're going to listen to my story and understand at the end of it that nothing is impossible, everything is possible. Let me just take you back 13 years and 2 days ago, 31st of January 2011, I, at the time, had a hairdressing salon in a health club, in a gym, living my dream life. I love fitness. I'm not brilliant at it, as you can see, but I do love it, and I had a hairdressing salon. So I was living the life that I really, really loved. And I suddenly decided that we were going to buy a car. I convinced my husband to dump the company car and go and buy what you guys call a lemon, and we call an old banger. So we travel on a simple Monday, 35, 45 miles to get this car that I've got in my head. And my husband and I tag teamed home. Now, I'm now driving the lemon on the way home. And as we got close to our house, about 35 miles, we'd already been in the car. I was on a 2-lane road, a dual carriageway, and all of the power in the car just stopped. It just went. And I'm doing about 40, 50 miles an hour. I'm in the fast lane, and I've got no power in my car. It's dark. It's 7 o'clock at night. And I thought, oh, my God, what am I going to do? So somehow I managed to drift the car over to the side of the road. And I called my husband. I had one bar on my phone. Called my husband and said, I don't know what's gone wrong. Maybe it's a fuel thing. So he, very lovely, went off in our other car. And 10 minutes later, he pulled up behind me with the fuel. So I jump out of the car to open the petrol cap. Now, remember, we just bought that car, so I probably don't even know how to open it in hindsight. But as I get out of the car and I look to where he is, there's a loud crash. And another car just drives into the back of his car where he's stationary. And I just thought, oh, my goodness, what's happened? But it looked like it just shunted the car forward, and it didn't look like there was any injury. So I thought, OK. And then I looked at my car, and when I looked back, the car was still coming towards me. Where I was stood this side is a busy dual carriageway, and this side is where I thought the car was going to go to, and there was nowhere for me to go. And I remember thinking, I'm going to die, and this is probably going to hurt. And for a split second, I stood and accepted that. And then something in my head went, no, 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 I'm not going. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving my boys. I can't do it. Something needs to happen. And I took 2 steps. And those 2 steps saved my life. As the car hit me, I was standing. And I felt like I was on ice. My leg just felt like a jelly, but I was still stood. So I thought, OK, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then the car hit me a second time, and it sent me spinning. And as I fell onto all fours, I could feel the bits of the car underneath me, the indicators. And as I looked over my shoulder, I realized, bugger, I'm now in the lane of the road, and I'm going to have to save myself again. So I crawled very painfully to the side of the road because I was winded and I couldn't breathe. I got to the side of the road, and as I sat there, I just realized I couldn't stand up. I don't know why. I just thought I was bruised. I broke a nail. There was no blood. The leg is bruised. Anyway, a couple of x-rays, and I think a whole lot of painkillers. Later, they told me that the leg was broken and that they would need to operate. So I'm admitted to the hospital. Now, understand this. To me, a broken leg means you have a cast, everybody signs it, and you're off work for 6 weeks, and then you go back to your normal life. This is what I thought a broken leg was. That's all the experience I had. So when the surgeon skipped up to me the next morning, very gleefully, and said, right, OK, we can operate on your leg, but you're not going to be able to use your leg. I was so shocked. I went, no, that can't happen. I'm a hairdresser. I'm in a gym. I've got children. That can't be the answer that you're giving me. And to my surprise, he walked away and just walked away. And then came back in the afternoon, and I thought, he's going to tell me the same thing again and try and convince me again. And he didn't. He came back and said, right, we've got another plan. And the new plan is that you will be able to use your leg, but you're not going to be able to bend it. And I said, no, Out of pure shock, I think, really. I was like, no. You're not listening to me. I'm telling you, I'm a hairdresser, I'm in a gym, I have to pay wages, I have to do, like, I need my leg. You know, you're gonna need to give me a different answer. They came back a third time, I don't recall what the answer was, but on the fourth time, so the day after, on the fourth time, they came back and was really excited, like literally so excited. If you've watched Grey's, you know how excited these people get, these surgeons. He said, right, we've got a plan. What we're gonna do is we're going to take some bone out of your hip, we're going to rebuild the knee, you're going to be able to bend it, you might be able to stand, but you're not going to have a whole bend, and we're going to go really deep, and we're going to get down to the marrow, and we're going to get the good bone. And I was like, oh, I'm not a boiled egg, just do that. I don't want you to be talking about how deep you're going to go. So at that stage, I think, okay, we'll have an operation. I still think it's only going to be 6 weeks. My manager comes in from the salon, and I said to her, put my clients off for 3 weeks, just move them back 3 weeks. And she gave me the oddest look ever. I think she knew it was going to be 4 weeks, really. So the next day, I go into surgery, I wake up, and I have a metal brace on my leg. I've got 2 10-inch scars on my legs, and I've got 2 plates and 22 screws. So I'm guessing it really wasn't a bruise after all that. So my recovery, I had 2 weeks in the hospital. It was fun, actually. I was quite lucky in that the gym that I worked in gave a discount to healthcare workers. So someone paid for my TV, someone bought me pajamas, someone bought me biscuits. One of my clients who I just cut his hair the week before offered to do my bedpan for me. He was my nurse. That was never going to happen. I got out of bed that day. It was a picture that I didn't really want to happen. So I went home after 2 weeks. I have to say my recovery was brutal, absolutely brutal. It was never 6 weeks. It was 6 months. I never walked for 6 months. I couldn't put my foot on the ground for 6 months. I had a metal brace on my leg that they, week by week, moved 5 degrees to get the bend. I had physio that made me cry. When my physio said to me, bend your leg, spend all weekend bending your leg, I did. Because I believed in my head that if I just did what they told me to do, that I would get back to normal, that I'd get back to where I was before. And for a girl who never really does as she's told, which my husband will agree with you, that's different for me. But I believed that if I just followed the rules, they were the experts, if I followed the rules, that it would all be back to normal and I would be fine and there would not be any more consequences. So subsequently, a year later, when they send me to see surgeons at the top of their game, and those surgeons say to me, you're going to be in a wheelchair at 55. I was like, no, I've done everything you asked me to do. I've made the recovery, I've done the exercise, I've cried, I've given up my hairdressing chair and gone and worked on the business. I've done everything. This is not going to happen to me. So I made some changes, I did some stuff. Years went by, a couple of operations, more physio, more exercises, more pain. I worked so that by the time I finished working, eventually my legs would be so swollen I would have to climb the stairs on my knees and go to bed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So my recovery was different. I threw myself into the business, but my fitness Debbie really missed the gym. I tried to go back to the classes, I tried to go to body pump, but when you've got to do press-ups against the wall and everyone else is on the floor, or you've got to sit for the squats, you feel a bit of an idiot. My body wouldn't do what I wanted it to do. Until one day, my friend sent me an email and said, how about this? So this was a cycle ride in India. 360 kilometers, Golden Triangle, from Taj Mahal to Rajasthan. And I thought, yeah, why not? Let's give it a go. Let's give it a try. I have no idea why I said yes, but I did, and I paid the deposit. I had 2 years, 10 months before we go, we start training, because obviously we never did it in the 2 years, we do it at the last minute. And I was pretty terrified, to be honest. I'm not a cyclist, not even a professional person when it comes to riding a bike. She had to show me how to change the gears. My legs were going around really, really fast. She was like, what are you doing? I didn't know that you had 3 gears on this side. I thought it was just 1. So that, and then she told me how to get the kit. So I made some mistakes with the kit. I bought these padded shorts that you have for the cycling, that you just wear them. You don't wear any underwear underneath. Apparently this is a thing for cyclists. And I bought 1 pair, and she said to me, they're a little bit see-through. And I thought, okay, it doesn't matter. We're cycling. I was at the bottom of a hill. I didn't really care at that stage. So we cycled for hundreds of miles around the Cotswolds in these shorts, and it wasn't until I bought my kit for India that I got 10 pairs, and they're all more see-through. They were like mesh, so I go back to Amazon and have a look. Turned out there's 2 types of shorts. One is underwear, and one is outerwear, and I'd been cycling in the underwear. So When I was getting the beeps when we were going past the supermarket, I thought everyone was supporting me. Really, they could just see the tattoo on my backside. So I'm a little bit more famous than I thought I was. Anyway, so we get to India, and I was so excited when we got to India. It is just everything that you could want to. It was the most massive adventure. But again, it was something that I trained for. I bumped into a boxer, and somebody asked her how she did the hill runs. And she said, I have no enthusiasm, but 3 things that she learned. One is that if you don't put the work in, she was going to get punched in the face when she got in the ring. 2, she would lose. 3, she'd be embarrassed. And actually, it would all be her own fault. So that resonated with me, and I put the work in, cancelled the summer, no barbecues, no staying out late, just go and do the cycling and get the practice in. So I'd got to the stage where I could cycle 45 miles. I was really proud of myself because I couldn't do very much to start with, but I'd never cycled 5 days in a row. So my fear was, I'm going to come back and I'm still going to need that wheelchair. So as we get to India, I'm so super nervous. We go to the Taj Mahal, it's lovely. Pulled into this village hall, and a folk truck turned up with all music and garlands, and the whole village came out and cheered for us and danced, and that was pretty much our journey all the way through India. Now, some of the roads that we were cycling on, you'll see in the images behind me, were like the surface of the moon. They were so challenging. One of them, I'd had a boiled egg in my bag, and by the time we got over the road and stopped for lunch, it was peeled. It was that rough that it just peeled the whole egg. I can't eat a boiled egg without thinking about it. Another time, I still had another underwear malfunction, where my shorts rolled down and my belly, and I couldn't pull them back up. Even though they were fine in the UK and India, they behaved differently. So they rolled down, and it just happened, I was cycling through a village, and the boys had all just come out of school, these 10, 12-year-olds, and they chased me with their camera phones. So somewhere I am a TikTok sensation, I'm sure. If you see it, send it to me, because I've not found it. But everybody where we went, apart from those horrible boys, cheered us. You know, the little kids came out, they'd never seen mad women cycling through India, and they cheered and they laughed. And we went through the villages. People would come out of the shops. We passed animals, pigs. The one time in my life I got to shout, passing camel, as we cycled past and overtook a camel. That's worth it all day long. But every day I was still scared. I was still like, what am I doing? I've paid to do this. No one's paying me. What an idiot. And then you see someone walking along with 5 sewage pipes on her head and barefoot, and she's looking really happy, and you think, suck it up, buttercup. You know, this is not your life. This is something that you're doing as a challenge. My biggest fear was the 5 days in a row, that I would run out of energy, that I could cycle one day, and then the next day I would have this fear that I would lose my energy, especially if I got to the end of the day. We started off on 74 kilometres, went to 100 kilometres. Can I just say, when we went, it was a 10-day trip, so I thought we cycled for 10 days. I thought it was just 36 kilometres a day, and we only cycled for 5. So my numbers were well out. And I had such a shock. But in the end, we finished. We went through hills, we went through mountains, we stopped for a chai latte every now and then. On the day that we finished was like the most unbelievable feeling. A little bit because we were being chased by monkeys because they wanted these garlands that we'd given. We stopped and they put all these garlands on, and then we just had an uphill. But I was just like, I've done it. I've done the impossible thing that I didn't think was possible. Through my hard work, through being organised for a change, through the streets of India, through the fields of India, through seeing all these amazing people, I'd achieved probably the biggest thing in my life. The one thing that I never thought that I would be able to do, there's a bus, I thought I'd be on the bus. My friend teased me, kept saying, don't get on the bus, otherwise I'll call you names, basically. The one thing that I achieved. So I suppose my reflection, I go back to the beginning, and when I said to you that everything is possible, if you want something bad enough, when you get the no's, when people said to me, you'll never do this, when people said to me, I'll never get on this stage, I took no notice of them and found another way. The only thing I will add to this is, on that same year that I cycled India, I had my 55th birthday. Thank you very much.